It's just fantastic. Captain's log, subdates 210629.8. I'm going to start investigating old crimes where there was no discernible justice. To do this, I need a sidekick. This could lead to a rather interesting inter-defiant contest. Woot. Welcome everyone to the Halls of Injustice. Today we welcome inmate number 079 to the ISO cubes. His name is Bahaa Kadum, and he has a petty, vindictive, control freak mentality, which led him to commit a rather serious crime to his ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend. I had initially considered them John Doe and Jane Doe, but it turns out one of the sources I managed to obtain did in fact have their names. The ex-girlfriend is called Shannon Griffiths, and the boyfriend of Shannon Griffiths is called Mr. Fahy. The crime that has gotten Bahaa Kadum into the ISO cubes took place on October 20th, 2020 at around 4:30 AM. For the sake of it, we're not going to mince our words, we are going to go straight through what he did over a very short period of time, and then get to the consequences of that. So around 3 AM on October 20th, Bahaa Kadum had managed to get his way into Shannon Griffith's property. He did not know that her boyfriend was staying the night with her. He, being the ex of Shannon, wanted to talk to her. Air quotes around talk to her. End air quotes. So he broke a window to get inside and somehow did not wake them up when doing so, which is quite impressive, I will admit. Upon entering the property though, he realized he needed a wicked whiz. So he walked upstairs discreetly, but if you've ever done that in your life you'll know what happens next. He woke up Shannon Griffiths, because yes, one or two of the steps may have creaked. She then made her way onto the landing and saw Bahaa Kadum in the bathroom pissing. She then turned around quickly, went back into the bedroom, locked the door, woke her boyfriend up. He, Bahaa Kadum, then decided to knock on the door and get aggressive. Shannon Griffiths and Mr. Fahy then asked through the door, which was locked, how he had managed to get into the property, which he ignored. Bahaa Kadum had actually gone downstairs because he needed something to hold a better conversation, so he got this rather large knife. I know, that's not a knife. Make your jokes. We're good. Mr. Fahy had left the bedroom and gone into the second bedroom and barricaded himself inside. The reason why was because he needed to exit the property, not just for self-preservation, but also because by exiting the property from that window he would then best be able to escape so as to get help, which he did. He jumped out of the first floor window and was pursued initially by Bahaa Kadum, but he being faster, Mr. Fahy that is, was able to escape. So Bahaa Kadum went back to the house and he managed to get his hands on Shannon Griffiths, where he then spent time with her. During this time, he did in fact beat Shannon Griffiths, using the knife pointing at her as well, indicating that he would not only kill her, but also kill himself, because if he could not have her, no one could, which is exactly what he said to her. During the time that Mr. Fahy had escaped though, he made it half a mile away before he found a passer-by, and this passer-by is their Good Samaritan, their hero in all of this, because they then called the police, who then stormed the property. Before the police had stormed the property, Bahaa had in fact continued to harm Shannon, made more threats towards her, but also then started cutting his forearm. There is obviously an issue here with mental health. I'm well aware of it. We do take that seriously here, I promise. At 4:30 AM, October 20th, 2020, an hour and a half after breaking into the property, Bahaa Kadum was arrested. He was charged with 1 count of false imprisonment and 2 counts of making threats to kill. During a police interview, Bahaa Kadum denied the offences and claimed he was in fact in a relationship with Miss Griffiths. And during mitigation, the defence counsel Robin Kitching had said that Bahaa Kadum had no idea that Mr. Fahy was there and had gone to the house to see Shannon Griffiths. The incident then unfolded quite unexpectedly, and he had no intention to cause any injuries to either of them, and he wishes to express his remorse and regret, which sounds an awful lot like a guilty plea, which is interesting because he then did in fact plead guilty eventually to the 2 charges. Just to go through the list of things that Bahaa Kadum had done to Shannon Griffiths. He spat on her, stood over and said, "Look what you made me do." When asked to leave, he simply said, "You're fucked, you've got no chance." He, because he's also a bit of a pyromaniac, obtained a toilet roll, made threats to set it on fire, and used blankets with a lighter. He struck her on the head when she attempted to move away, dragged her back to the sofa, continued to strike her on the head. He then picked up the knife when Shannon attempted to push him away. He then cut her across the arm. And when the police arrived, Bahaa Kadum had actually tried to bargain with Shannon Griffiths by saying that if she helped him by not saying anything and letting him escape, she would, be safe. Her response was to run out of the back door crying, which is the right response under the circumstances. Because he pled guilty, eventually, to the charges presented, he was found guilty. And yes, there is a sentence and there are some statements. Bahaa Kadum, inmate 079, was sentenced to 5 years and 3 months in prison and given an indefinite restraining order. Now 5 years 3 months for me should be the entire sentence. And an indefinite restraining order is a great thing because it now protects both Shannon Griffiths and Mr. Fahy. He is not allowed to contact them ever. To do so will put him back in prison instantly, and it will carry a far more severe sentence than the initial one. Obviously, when it comes to hostage taking, I would rather double the sentence at the very least, but you can't double an indefinite restraining order. When sentencing, Judge Mr. Recorder Ian Harris said, "The facts of your offending are appalling and terrifying. It was 30 minutes of abuse, terror and vile verbal abuse and threats. It was 4:30 in the morning and people are entitled to feel safe and secure in their home, particularly in the dead of night. You went into that house uninvited and you were unwelcome. This was planned. As you were dropped off by your brother who drove you there, you were motivated by jealousy and revenge. No doubt the police would have been met by a scene of carnage." Shortly after he was sentenced and obviously sent away, DC Simon Cook of the Greater Manchester Police said, "This was a terrifying ordeal for both victims who were left fearing for their life. Thankfully, neither victim sustained any serious injuries that evening, but the outcome could have been completely different had the man not been able to flag down a passerby to alert police. Kadum's behaviour that evening was erratic and abhorrent, and he is quite clearly a dangerous individual. Nobody should be made to feel unsafe in their own home, so I'm glad we've been able to remove this man from our streets and put him behind bars, where he'll have plenty of time to think over his behaviour, or, and this is also likely, continue to obsess over Shannon Griffiths. But we shall of course see what 5 years and 3 months does for him. Get in your cell, you cretin." And finally, a statement from Shannon Griffiths. "This was the most terrifying experience of my life and I genuinely believed I was going to die. He is a manipulative person who wanted to control me and my life, and I cannot believe he would come to my home and keep me hostage. If the police had not arrived, I would have been murdered by him. I am terrified about him getting out and hunting me down. I always have to look over my shoulder. I should not have to live my life like this. He is a horrible and dangerous human being." You are being quite generous with the title of human being, but we accept it, it's on record. She does raise an alarming point when it comes to those who do things like this, these kind of crimes of obsessively trying to control another person's life. Obsession is a very hard thing to suppress. I'm almost certain everyone feels something towards obsession for something somewhere. A lot of it can be considered healthy. In other instances, it becomes an addiction, which is what it is for Bahaa Kadum, and he needs help. If he doesn't get help, then he needs to stay. There is no coming out of that. Perhaps some form of rehabilitation would do him some good. But I will say this, at no point should Shannon Griffiths or Mr. Fahy feel like they should have to look over their shoulders. The system has failed people before and we have covered them on this channel. I sincerely hope the Greater Manchester Police continue to do their job when this man is freed. Now, as we are done, I do want to know what you all think, so please do let me know in the comments down below. If I don't see you on Twitch tonight, because yes, we're going to be there, I hope you'll have a fantastic day, and thank you all very much for listening.